Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy O here on Daily Faith Network. We are on live with the Church's Pulse. Thank you for tuning in. You can download the app on Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, or watch us online at dailyfaithnetwork.com. Listen, I am so excited. Are you excited? Because I am excited. I have a very special guest, the Most Reverend Bishop Gary L. Salter Jr. in the house.
My God.
Talk to us, sir. Welcome.
Thank you so much, man. I appreciate you for having me on. I do absolutely count it an honor and a privilege to be live and to be in the room with you, man. You know, nothing like being in the room with a good friend, man. So I appreciate you having me.
No problem, Bishop. You got a lot going on over there in Melbourne. You know, we got Love City Cafe. Talk to us. What's going on in the kingdom over there in Melbourne?
Man, let me tell you, God has really been good to us. We've got a lot of things going on. I feel like sometimes like an octopus. You know, we just kind of got a lot of things going on here and there. At the core of everything that we do is ministry. Everything that we do has a ministry component to it. So, of course, you know, first and foremost is the church, Love Center Church, Melbourne. We are at 2787 Aurora Road here in the beautiful city of Melbourne, Florida. And the Lord has really been blessing us here, man. Love Center Church is one church in 3 locations, Melbourne, Orlando, and Titusville. Shout out to my mom, Apostle Genevieve Salter, who is the boss lady. She's the boss lady. So really excited about her. Yeah, man. And then, of course, Pastor Greg and Pastor Mary, my brother and my sister, there at the Titusville Church. And then my brother and my sister, Pastor Jeremy, Pastor Rakita, over at the Orlando Church. And, of course, to the most beautifulest girl in the world, the one that I'm married to. Tammy Salter. I love her. And then, of course, you know, so we got the church, and then, of course, we have Love City Cafe, which is the business arm of what we do here at the Melbourne location. We actually have 3 locations for Love City. So we have a location here at the church. I'm actually sitting in the cafe here at the church. And then we actually run the cafe at Eastern Florida State College. I almost said Brevard Community College, but that's
back in the day. Yeah,
back in the day. We actually run the cafe there at the Cocoa campus with people that we actually employed from our church, believe it or not. Same as here at the church location. And then we also have the coffee truck, the trailer that we take around. So we call it our 3rd location. It's the mobile location. But
that's pretty dope.
Things are going well. Yeah, man. It's one of only 2, I think, in our county, believe it or not. So the Lord has really been good to us in that regard. And then, of course, I've got the podcast, the Wise Counsel podcast.
Yeah.
You can find us everywhere. We're Apple, we're Google, we're Spotify, we're iHeartRadio, we are Amazon. Almost anywhere you can get podcasts, we're there. So, man, we really do have a lot going on. I'm really grateful. It keeps me very, very busy.
Yes, Bishop, I am excited about tonight's podcast show. You know, we are being watched globally with Daily Faith Network, international, over 63 countries, 7,000 devices connected a week. Analytics are saying people are watching Daily Faith Network an average of 23 hours a day. So people are locked in. It's not just ministry going on. We're playing movies. We're playing workouts early in the morning to get you going. It's just a variety of a lot of things. So this definitely is a network that you can trust in front of your family.
Absolutely. And I'm going to tell you, we are privileged to be a part of the Daily Network, the Daily Faith Network family. I'm really grateful to have been able to come into a relationship with you. Had no idea that you were paying attention to what the Lord was allowing us to do. And man, I'm telling you, I am so grateful for what you and the Daily Faith Network team are doing. And I'm sure Rianne is the one that's kind of running everything. I'm sure she's the one that's kind of running it all.
She's watching.
She's watching. Hey, my friend, how you doing?
Yeah, she's in Belize watching with her family today.
All the way in Belize.
Dope.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. But yeah, man. So there's a lot going on, but I do believe that as God allows you to have opportunity and doors open, that it is necessary for us to walk through those doors, and I'm really excited about what's happening on this network for sure.
Bishop, let's get into this. I'm going to take everybody down memory lane. What ministry was like going into the pandemic. You ready, Bishop?
Let's go. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, this week we saw a lot of events canceled, buildings shut down. It sends a strong message to people that right now we should all avoid being in big crowds. Some churches across Hampton Roads are making sure their congregations stay healthy. They've had to switch gears a little bit. Churches that have kept their doors open for years have now closed them, but they're finding other ways to keep their faith alive. Reporter Angelo Vargas is here with the story. Angelo, what are they doing now?
The coronavirus has forced many churches to go online and with hopes to stop the spread of the virus.
Matthew 8, when Jesus comes down the mountain, just preach.
This is what it's going to look like for pastors.
This is going to be awesome. We're so glad that you are able to join us.
Speaking in front of empty seats and into a camera for people online to watch.
The coronavirus has changed the way that we are doing ministry, but we are not going to stop.
Jeremy Miller is the campus pastor.
God is going to meet you right where you are.
We're at New Life Church.
Probably the first time we've ever done anything like this in the history of our church.
New Life Church has 4 campuses in Hampton Roads. This church can hold up to 900 people. Miller and church staff were discussing for weeks if they were going to empty the church.
We want to make sure that we are protecting people, that we're wise as we can be, and that we can meet people right where they are.
Other big churches in the area have posted on their websites they are going online.
This is an opportunity for the church to be in its finest hour. Jesus will meet us right where we are, and he will put his hand in the situation to show his goodness, his character, and his nature.
Miller tells us he doesn't have a timeline when services will go back to normal, but they will continue to follow the CDC guidelines. Angelo Vargas, 13 News Now.
Bishop, I have to ask you, was Love Center Church streaming prior to the pandemic?
We weren't, actually, believe it or not. It was a decision that we chose to hold off on because honestly, we had other things that were of greater priority. But of course, the pandemic came along and just undid all of our desires and wants and timelines and all of that. So we had to shift, and I'm very glad that we did, actually.
So, can you relate? I'm sure you can relate, Bishop, to that pastor that church was empty. You go from, being charismatic and just, being with the people, going to preaching in front of a camera. Help me understand the mentality in that.
So let me say this. Our being charismatic has nothing to do with people being in the building. Our level of service did not shift by way of the level of power and anointing that we saw in our church. How we applied it changed.
Gotcha.
But people being able to come in the room, our praise team was there, our band was there, our AV people were there, and that power was just as powerful. I remember vividly one time, Ontavius, we were pre-recording services. And so we would come in and do sessions where we would do maybe like 2-3 of them, back to back.
Okay.
And I remember one time we came in and recorded, and only to find out, I'm talking about the presence of God was high in that recording, only to find out that it didn't record. We came back and did it again and had the same level of power. You know what I mean? So us being charismatic has nothing at all to do with people sitting in the seats. It's literally about the relationship with Jesus Christ that we have. Period. Point blank. Bottom line. But I will say this though,
Talk to me.
I'm grateful that even though we didn't start streaming until the pandemic, I'm grateful that we had the capability and the finances to get it done. And so that piece of it was a whole different thing. We literally had to make that shift in about 7 days, literally, and we were able to do it that quickly. And I'm glad we did.
So just talk about, so in 7 days you had to put the resources together, put a team together.
Yes.
Have a vision. Number one, have a vision. You got to have a vision. Bible says, write it out, make it plain, right? So were you already, did you already have a vision to start streaming eventually?
We already knew what we wanted to do. We already knew what equipment we wanted. Honestly, we just had not, hit the go button on it yet. Because again, we had other things that were more pressing. Truth be told, at the time we were renting a building, and I did not want to dump the amount of resources that I knew were necessary for us to be able to stream effectively in somebody's building that we were renting. That's no slight against anybody. That's just where I was. I was like, I don't want to spend any money doing this if I don't have to, and so we didn't. Thankfully, when the pandemic hit, we were able to turn that button and we were able to go. So we literally did not have a choice.
Okay, so you were renting space during the pandemic, but I see you in a different space now. So talk to me, ministry in the pandemic. How are you able to disciple over the internet? What was that like?
Well, I mean, it was definitely different. It was definitely different because, of course, we were accustomed to, the actual touching of people, as opposed to now having to touch them over the internet was definitely a different situation. There were a lot of emails. There were a lot of inboxes. There were a lot of Facebook posts and statuses that really helped us to remain connected to the people that we had. And then we're able to grow as a result of those persons. So one of the things that helped us quite a bit is that most of, I would say, our church turned into, digital disciples. They were electronic evangelists. They were helping us to get the word out. They were sharing the posts. They were saying, hey, y'all got to come watch my church online. And then, of course, those persons were connected to their friends, and then their friends were connected to friends, and so on and so on and so forth. So it was really able to help us to grow our viewership. And then, of course, you have to make sure that you're giving ministry that is qualitative, right? So the music has to be right. The levels have to be right. You have to really spend time. My wife will tell you, man, we spent hours on top of hours on top of hours on top of hours watching others and their video broadcast and seeing what we liked and what we didn't, and what we thought spoke to us, and we like that approach. We don't want to do that. We got to make sure we never do this. We got to make sure that we do that. So there was a lot of time. We took notes and just all kinds of things. And man, I'm telling you, on a Sunday we would literally watch 10, 12, 15 churches, right? And then once we locked in on the 2 or 3 that we really loved their presentation, loved their sound, we said, hey, this is the product that we're going for. And then we were able to bring people in who really helped us to get there. And God gave us the staff who had the acumen to really be able to replicate what we wanted to hear. So it was a process, but I'm grateful that we had the resources, the people resources first and foremost, and then the financial resources to make it happen.
Okay, so now 3 years later, coming out of the pandemic, Bishop, talk to us now. You telling everybody, stay home.
Right.
Stay home. Right. Now you telling everybody, hey, psych. Come back. Hey, come back.
Right.
Talk to us. That Noah effect. You've been telling everybody for so long, stay home, but now, it's time to come back.
Well, I'll tell you, for us, I know for some churches that's been really challenging, and having people come back, to the sanctuary. We have not had that problem. As a matter of fact, we bought a church, and we've almost outgrown where we are now, post-pandemic. I do not ascribe to that thought that people did not come back to church after the pandemic.
So Bishop, you said something that just, you can't let that just go.
Yeah.
So coming out of a pandemic, you bought a church.
We did.
So
we bought a church. We doubled in size. We started our business. Our coffee shop business did not start until after the pandemic was already going. And in a year's time, we went from 1 location to 3. Our church went from a handful, if you will, to 2 handfuls and 3 handfuls and 4 handfuls, 4 hands full. So, and we're steady growing every week. God is really blessing us to grow in that kind of thing. To the point now where, we have been having to really consider, like, what do we do next? What does the next thing look like for us? Is it repurposing this building? Is it expanding this building? Do we move? So there are a lot of things that God has allowed us to be able to do. So for anyone who ascribes to the notion that people didn't come back to church after the pandemic, I think there are a few examples around the country that would dispel that idea.
So Bishop, we was talking earlier, you had some statistics. I want you to grab those statistics.
Yeah.
But
now,
go ahead. What would you say to the faithful bedside Beulah Baptist member that still just refuses to come back? What would you say to that person?
Man, let me tell you something. All of us have different levels of comfort. And there are some who have real health concerns that they've got to be attentive to. And so if being in general public in that way is problematic to your health, thank God for the internet.
Sure, absolutely.
Right? And that your church and many other churches are streaming. So you have this smorgasbord of an opportunity to be able to get ministry on every level. But for those who say, hey, you know what, man, I just rather go to church. I'd rather just go to church online. I don't want to go to nobody's building. If that's, I would tell them that they really are missing a golden opportunity for connectivity that you cannot get in the cyberspace. I will tell you this, and I don't mean to be crass or anything of that nature, but my wife and I have 4 children, which means that there had to be a consummation of our relationship. We could not consummate that relationship in that manner over the internet.
That's practical. It's
practical. Yeah. We had to be in the same room, operating in the same space, having a oneness of mind. And the same is true as it pertains to our connectivity with God in the room. I'll tell you this, one of my favorite scriptures is 1 Kings chapter 9, verse 3. I believe it is where the Bible says that I've hallowed this house. I've put my name here forever. My eyes and my heart shall be there perpetually. There's a thing, there's a presence, there's a glory, there's a power that you can only get when you come into the house of God, a place that has been reserved for that level of activity within the presence and the power of God. And if there are those who are saying, I don't want to go into church because of whatever, I would tell you that I really do believe that you are what the old folk that I came up around, they said, you're living beneath your Holy Ghost privilege.
Even talking about, preparation for going to worship, there is something about preparing to go to worship,
without a doubt. And I believe, whether it was our forefathers, our foremothers in the civil rights movement, whether it was, our shown up forefathers and foremothers that, came over from Africa, or maybe even those who were the settlers and they came from England, but they understood what it was like to be in the presence of God, be in the room, know what it felt like to get up on a Sunday morning, you're getting your clothes out, you're ready to, go to church. That level of anticipation, you're on your way to church. There's something magical about that, that you really don't get in any other space, that you really don't get out of any other thing. And I'm really appreciative for the fact that there is always preparations made here for ministry. I tell our church that you should be pre-gaming all week long.
I like that. I like that.
We pre-game, right? We don't wait to get into the presence of God in church. You know, I'm in the presence of God on a Monday sitting in the coffee shop, right?
Yes, sir.
On a Tuesday sitting in my office. You know, that I'm pre-gaming. I'm riding along in my car. You know what I mean? Just really, you know, engaging the presence of God. That is a very real thing for us. And so I think we're able to reap the benefits of that, because now we're not coming in trying to be warmed up. We came in warm, so we don't need a whole lot of pumping.
Came ready.
Ready to go.
You have those stats. You have those stats.
You know what? Yeah. Let me read some things to you all. I think that is really important to understand, because there are those who really think that people don't come to church, and that's really not true. I am on the pewresearch.org when I'm reading this. It says, I'm going to take an excerpt out of here. It says that, broadly speaking, the survey found that most Americans who watch religious services on screens are happy with them. 2/3 of U.S. adults who regularly stream services online or watch them on TV say they're either extremely satisfied or very satisfied, right? That's really, really good. But then it says, at the same time, Americans tend to give higher marks to worshiping together in person. See that? While majority express satisfaction with virtual services, even bigger shares of physical attenders say they feel extremely or very satisfied with sermons at 74%, music at 69%, at the services they attend in person. So we should not acquiesce to the thought process that people don't want to come back. The research really does speak to something very, very opposite. Very, very opposite. People want to be back in the church, and we have to not always rely on what we heard on Facebook or what our friends say to us, because that's not the total of the research. They may be part of that research, but it's not the total of the research. You really have to go in and do your homework to know exactly what's being said and what people are thinking.
So, Bishop, what is worship service like for Love Center Church in Melbourne? You guys you're growing. I tune in every now and then to your worship service, and listen, y'all are thumping. Talk to me. What's going on over there?
Well, so I'll tell you this. I think first and foremost that any business of any sort is only as good as its leader. It doesn't matter if we're talking Daily Faith Network, we're talking Starbucks, whether we're talking McDonald's, Procter & Gamble. It doesn't matter what that business is. The business is only as good as its leader. If the leader is excited about what's happening, it will permeate down to those that he or she leads.
Absolutely.
So I am always excited. My wife is always excited to be in the house of God, and we want that to be what shows. So of course, my wife and I are, we're musicians. We both play organ and keys and all of that, and I play drums and we sing or whatever. So we have a real influence on what happens in our church musically. Prayer is a huge component of what we do. I'm not one of those preachers, and I'm not here to whatever, but I'm not one of those preachers that don't come to prayer. I'm usually one of the first ones here, and I'm praying actively in prayer. I'm in Bible study, right? I don't wait to come out my office, all right, until service has started. I'm generally one of the first ones out there. So, I can't expect people to create an environment that I'm not willing to help engage in. So I think that's one of the reasons why our church has a level of excitement that it does. I've been telling our people, like, my heart's desires that I want people to drive up in the parking lot and open their doors and be slain in the spirit before they get out the car. Like, literally, because there's that level of anticipation of what God is going to do. And we realize that God does not move because one person is in the room. The church should be able to function at its highest capacity, even without the leader in the room. But I think if we have created that environment, if we have created that level of presence where people don't wait for me to get in the room or wait for my wife to get in the room for the presence of God to be there, because I may not come to church that Sunday. You still need to experience God. So, we want to make sure that we always are, creating those kinds of environments that keeps the excitement high. Make sure that the word is relevant, that people can hear it and be able to understand and put it in a space that they can grasp it. And sometimes that word is hard. Sometimes it's hard. But we need that from time to time, right? As the Lord leads. And then you need things that are encouraging. So we try to make sure that we experience the entire expanse of the ministry spectrum so that people's lives can be made better.
So, and then expanding, I'm in production, so things have been ramped up. I went to a worship service not too long ago, and we was just worshiping, right? Next thing you know, you on somebody real, because they got that roaming camera going on. So where does it like an invasion of privacy? Like, do you even have a disclaimer on your door like, hey, enter at your own risk? You're subject to being online.
That's interesting. We don't have that disclaimer. We had talked about doing it. But truth be told, like I said to you, our church has grown tremendously since the pandemic. And those who have come, they found us as a result of social media, or they found us as a result of our streaming. So we didn't feel it necessary for people to understand, to see that on the door. They knew that this is what was going on. I don't have a problem with roaming cameras in church. I don't have a problem because I think to a great degree they make for great social media.
Sure.
If you're able to capture proper shots, like we do a time of fellowship at our church, right, where everybody's hugging and loving on each other. And so for a church like ours, whose motto is that we're more than just a church, we're a family. If they're able to see that people are really loving, and for us that is extremely genuine. You can talk to anybody from my church and they'll tell you that we love people. I say things like, hey, if you talk to somebody here and they talking crazy, they may go here, but they're not a member. Because the members of this church love people. Right. They really love people. And so I don't have a problem with roaming cameras. What I do have a problem with is that we tend to denigrate our own for comedic value at times where it is our most vulnerable. And for me, I think that's a problem. So if we could learn to be respectful to one another, no different than those 5, that lost their lives the other week, last week in the submarine.
Yes,
While there may have been things that they should have adhered to, and they did not, it didn't mean that we should have made light of them losing their lives, because honestly, them losing their lives did not hurt them as much as they hurt the families that they left here. So for us to, as a community of people, to make light of that, I think was horrible. So I don't have a problem with cameras. I don't have a problem with roaming cameras.
So what do you do, Bishop? I'm sorry. Every time I'm on social media on a Sunday afternoon, right, 2 hours after worship service, I see the next shouting reel, right? So what do you like for that person that always has their phone, like they're going live from their phone, and then there's a live stream coming from the church, but that's a whole nother thing, right? So where's the focus? Like if I got my phone trying to catch the next moment, the next move of God, like what are we doing?
Man, I'm gonna tell you, it would be disingenuous of me to say that I've never pulled out my phone to catch a moment. That would be disingenuous for me to say. It would be a lie for me to say. I would say that it is not my general focus. Typically, what I do from my phone when our service starts, I share our stream, and I keep my phone open so that those numbers can continue to grow, right? That's something very practical that I do. But we have someone at our church who goes live from their phones all the time, and I've said to them, like, hey, all you got to do is just share the
stream. We're doing the work for you.
Yeah. But everybody has different applications, and I won't beat them up.
Sure.
I won't beat them up because we all have different levels of comfort and different levels of understanding. There's one that I think who shares, that goes live from their phone at our church because they don't really know how to share, right? And they're a little older, so they don't necessarily know how to do that. Or maybe they've got more comfortable with just holding the phone up than they are with sharing. People have different whatevers, and I'm not going to beat them up, but I will say this. I think you can get a whole lot more out the service if you put the phone down and engage in it and just share the live.
I hear you. I hear you, Bishop. Bishop.
Yes, sir.
Technology is advancing swiftly.
For sure.
There's this thing called ChatGPT. This thing is something.
Yeah.
For the people that don't know what ChatGPT is, let me show you a clip about ChatGPT. We'll be right back.
All right.
Back in 2022, on the last day of November, ChatGPT was revealed to the world. In a matter of days, it became a viral sensation. But how did that happen? And exactly what is ChatGPT? OpenAI ChatGPT is a chatbot created as an advancement in the artificial intelligence industry. Behind its knowledge lies a massive amount of data, including books, articles, and web pages. ChatGPT doesn't just store all this data, it analyzes it. Basically, it thinks and acts like a human. It can understand various requests, effectively communicate in 90 different languages, and even recall details of an ongoing conversation. And then it runs past the competing tools by being accessible for free. There are thousands of examples of how to use ChatGPT already. You can make it write a cover letter for a new job, ask for an essay, give it a math problem. You can give ChatGPT a snippet of programming code to fix, and it will find the issue. Besides technical questions, you can go the creative route too, and request a poem in the style of Shakespeare. ChatGPT will come up with perfectly rhyming lines. So, what if you ask it to come up with a way to hack a website? It will say no. But here's the issue. While ChatGPT can decline harmful requests, it's not foolproof. There already have been ChatGPT examples of people getting around the restrictions with creative prompts, which could lead to things like cyber criminals exploiting the system to create ChatGPT malware. It's only natural that such a technological advancement will bring problems alongside solutions, and questions alongside answers. Will ChatGPT replace Google? Will it take over human jobs? That's a topic for another time. This was ChatGPT Explained. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for even more AI news and cybersecurity updates.
All right, Bishop. ChatGPT, I can't even compare it to Google. You can't compare it to Siri. This thing has a mind of its own,
it's another level. It's another level for sure.
What does this do to church ministry? Would you ever use this to build your sermon?
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
Talk to me. No, Cap, you cap it. Nah.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There are some things that I think the integration of AI in church could really be amazing for. For example, let's go here. I think there's some things that AI is helping in church already that we may not really understand. For example, if your church uses click tracks, drum tracks, that's a form of AI. It's simple AI, it's weak AI, but it's still AI.
True.
If you're using it for stems, where you get all the instruments and more background vocals, a lot of churches use that because maybe they don't have a full praise team, or they want to make the praise team, the sound of the praise team, bigger. That's a form of AI We have here in our lobby where people come in, when our visitors come in, we have a way for them to be able to sign in to a system. And when they sign in on that system, they actually, we are able to generate emails and text messages and things of that sort. That's AI, right? I have no problem with that. But as it pertains to being able to minister to the souls of people, that's a God job. It's not a robot's job. And I would never employ those tools or tactics. Never. We have to be able to, sing a song. Never. Let me go on record and say it loud and clear for the people in the back. Never, ever, ever. There's some things that only God can do, and we have to know where to draw the line in the sand with things of that nature.
You know, looking at the video, it brings into question cybersecurity.
Absolutely.
Now, is online giving at risk? Chips.
Mm-hmm.
What does this do with technology? We've already landed on the moon. What's next?
Right. Well, I mean, of course, they're going to Mars next, and even the Hubble telescope went out to the edge of the galaxy. That was years ago, a decade or better ago.
Mm-hmm.
So, and of course, living on the Space Coast, here in Brevard County, we hear a lot about the technology and how it is being integrated, and even things that they're doing now that in the next 5 years is going to totally revolutionize our area. I do think we need to embrace the advancement of technology to a degree. I think we need to do that because it can only help to make us better in a lot of areas. It can make us more proficient. I mean, I tell you this, our church, we generate automatic text messages for announcements. We do it with emails for announcements. We do it through Facebook, Instagram. There's nothing wrong with using these things in their proper spaces.
Sure.
It's only when we allow it to now begin to think for us. I was reading an article or watching something today where an AI robot generated a sermon. Never will happen around here, brother.
Can you imagine? Let's show this clip before we get a little bit more into that. Listen, y'all. Are we tripping or no? Watch this.
All right, this is what it looks and sounds like to attend a mass led by artificial intelligence. Hundreds of churchgoers attending that service during Germany's Convention of Protestants. The 40-minute service was put together by a 29-year-old theologian and philosopher from the University of Vienna. He says 98% of that mass was the product of ChatGPT, but the congregation said the avatar just didn't have the warmth that you're used to, right?
Yeah.
All right.
So, number one, listen, in our culture, she said that was a 40-minute service, not a 40-minute sermon.
Right.
Let's just start.
Right.
But
that's first and foremost right there, right? That's
okay, so this is wild. Okay. Could you have sat there? If that was you, could you have sat through the whole thing? If that was you? From your Christian experience, could you have sat through that?
If it were 40 minutes, I can give 40 minutes of my life learning something new. Even if it were something, because for me, now everybody's not like this. For me, I'm an information fanatic. Okay, so I would not have mind sitting there one time. I'm gonna give you that caveat. One time for 40
Pastor
minutes.
Tammy wouldn't be sitting with you. She'd be like, "Oh no, I'm out."
She's like, "I'm out of here." Like, no, I'm good. I'm real good. But it would have been for information gathering only. I do not believe that anything artificially made has the spiritual download from God. We have this treasure in earthen vessel. We have this treasure, that treasure called the Holy Ghost, in earthen vessel, and I don't need somebody without the Holy Ghost preaching to me. So I definitely don't need a robot that don't even have the capacity to have the Holy Ghost preaching.
The capacity.
Yeah, I'm good.
Can you imagine? I'm sorry. My mind went through a rabbit hole. Can you imagine that AI bot? That's what they called it, an avatar. Right. They called it an avatar.
Right.
Raising the offering in our culture.
But here's the thing. They are making these things so intelligent that one of the videos you just played earlier said that they have embedded into them the ability to intellectually deduce, right? So they have the language, they don't have the spirit, and that's what drives what we do in church, right? It is the spirit and the presence and the power of God that drives what we do. It's not intelligent. So you can be saying, okay, hold on, let me take you back to the Bible. Do you not remember when Paul was out preaching and the woman came behind him that had all those demons, and she said, "These are the men of God. You need to be listening to them. They're saying all the right things." Paul turned around to her and cast the demon out, because just because you're saying the right thing does not mean it's being done in the right spirit. So I don't need anything that's talking right. I need something that has the talking right and the spirit behind it. And AI does not have that capability nor that capacity.
Listen, can you imagine what altar call would be like?
It would be intellectual. It would be an intellectual moment, and you cannot effectively manage that moment through your intellect. Especially like for a church like ours that is very prophetic. Yeah. Our church is very prophetic. So the robot doesn't have the ability to tap into God. So you would lose all of that. The young people say you can miss me with all of that. So that's where I would be with that. You can miss me with all of that. I'm good.
Listen, you said what do you say about the bot? You said,
you keep your bot, you give me Jesus.
Say that one more time.
You keep your bot, give me Jesus.
Listen, somebody put that on a shirt. DM me, send that to me. Keep your bot, give me Jesus. I will wear that on the next podcast. Yeah. I will rep
You keep
that.
Your bot, you give me Jesus. I'm good with that. I'm good with that.
So, we have to talk about this because this is the culture that we're in. The generation that's coming up now is very intellectual, right?
Yeah.
But has technology caused a shift in traditional worship service? Like, what is it forcing ministries to do?
Well, so when you use an adjective like traditional, I think that is an objective term or subjective term. Because what's traditional for me may not be traditional for the next guy.
Sure.
I grew up in what I would deem a very traditional church, but it was a traditional Pentecostal church. Whereas you have some who may have grown up in what they would consider a traditional Baptist church. So we have to, or any other denomination, sure. you have to qualify what traditional is. So, but now a traditional church can be a church with an LED screen, or with click tracks, or lights and fog machines, because that for you is what is your tradition.
Dim lights,
right? So it just all depends on what you call traditional. If we're going to use the allow me to say it this way, the traditional term of traditional, right? Traditional term of traditional, where you got deacons leading praise and worship, or they're lining hymns, or churches without Pentecostal churches without praise team. They had like a devotion leader, like how I grew up. Then I think maybe it has and maybe it hasn't, all depending on the mental dexterity and the intellectual drive of the preacher, of the pastor, right? If the pastor realizes that the world is shifted and he or she needs to shift, then it absolutely can. But then you could have those who say, I don't care what they say, we's gonna stay where we are. And then it didn't. You know, for us, technology caused our church to shift. And I'm really glad that it did. It really has helped us tremendously.
What's the response to because I've had the privilege of just fellowshipping, right? And you have a wide range of members, the age range.
We do.
How do you bring everybody along on this technology shift? How do you, because you talked about earlier, you know, we have someone that still having problems with sharing a Facebook Live. So how do you manage that?
We have our membership spans from newborn to about 70, 75.
Okay.
70, early 70, mid 70s. Our median age at our church right now is about 37 years old. That's the median age at our church. So we're still very Gen X, very millennial. So in order for us to do this, we have to really help those who are not technologically savvy embrace what's next. I'll tell you this. I've got people at our church here, when they're taking notes, I got some that use a pen and pad. We have some that use their cell phones. We have some that use their iPads and, you know, other, you know, devices of that sort. So when you have a church that has a wide expanse like that, you have to bring everybody along, and you have to minister to everybody where they are, right? So our objective is to make sure that everybody, no matter where they are, in their experience with God or their experience with technology, everybody's able to come along. And so we embrace those readily who don't understand how to send a text message, because we do have some of those, right? Or don't know how to send an email. But then we also embrace those who use Snapchat and DMs and inboxes.
Sure. So
you have to be able to use everybody in that space and make sure that everybody knows that they're valuable in that space, and that makes it easy. It really does.
So I love something that you've incorporated in your worship services. I just want to hit it real quick. You go from a praise team to now you got a choir.
Yes, sir.
Talk to me just about, technology said we're going forward, but you made a pivot and say, hold on, as we're going forward, let me reach back and let's pull some. Tell me, like, what was that about?
So let me be honest. I think a lot of times in church we don't understand the dichotomy of moving forward while still staying true to what we are rooted in. The Bible tells us in the book of Isaiah, I believe it's chapter 54, chapter 55, the Bible says, behold, I'll do a new thing, shall it not spring forth, right? But then you can also go to Jeremiah 6:16, and the Bible tells you to find the old path and walk therein, right? Those are not contradictory statements. They are complementary statements, right? There are things that God had already established that you need to lock in on. Is new to you, but it ain't new to the kingdom. You see that? So we have to be able to embrace things. There are some things about the old church that I wouldn't want to go back to, right?
Sure.
Because times have moved on.
Sure.
But because I'll be totally honest with you, one of the things that I really wanted to do is I wanted to be able to draw more boomers to our church, right? And so one of the ways that we felt like we could do that was to make sure that we sounded like what they were accustomed to. That's why we brought the choir back, right? Because, and I've got some in here, when the choir get to going, they bumping, they excited, you know what I mean? We singing John P. Key, Hezekiah Walker, all of that, right? But then that doesn't mean that we leave out Todd Galbraith, right? Or Kiara Shear. It doesn't mean that we keep out, other, new age worship leaders. We embrace all of it because it takes all of us to make this work. And I think sometimes in our attempt to want to move forward, we think that means leaving everything behind. But I tell you this, if your washing machine or your dryer break down, you got a sink and a clothesline, and it works just as well. Yeah.
Bishop, I'm just overwhelmed. Thank you for chopping it up with me here on the Church's Pulse. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Before we wrap things up, I'm gonna let you give your shout out, your plug before we wrap things up.
Hey, let me tell you, man, I really appreciate you allowing me to come and share. I count it an honor and a privilege. I really do. I do not take this lightly. You are not required to share your platform with anybody. But when God releases grace and favor, I am blessed and privileged to do so. But I got to give a shout out to my wife. I love my wife. I don't know if anybody knows that about me, but I love that girl. Tammy Salter, I love her to the end of the world and beyond. My Love Center Church family, Melbourne, Orlando, and Titusville. I appreciate all of you all. You all make ministry worth doing. And to those who are my podcast listeners, wise counsel on all the platforms, and for those who patronize Love City Cafe every day, God bless y'all. It's the best coffee you'll ever drink. It's the best stuff anywhere. Let me see if I can get it. Can I get that in?
I had the medicine bomb.
Woo! Talk about it, man of God.
The Bishop Street. I had the Bishop Street. It changed my life. It blessed my soul.
Listen.
Oh God.
Listen. It'll touch you. It'll touch you. It'll touch you right down in your sanctified soul.
Man, listen. I'll do that. Hey, give me that.
Hey, listen, and I'm telling you, there are more things being added. We just added some sweets.
Okay. All right, combo.
I'm telling y'all,
yes, sir.
Y'all better get over here. 2787 Aurora Road. We're open Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. You can go to the if you're a student at Eastern Florida State College there in Cocoa, you can go there Monday through Thursday, 8 to 3. You can catch the coffee trailer anywhere around town. We're out several times a week. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram. So you can always catch us wherever we are.
Bishop.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Listen, it's always a pleasure chopping it up with you, man of God. For real.
Listen, man, it's always an experience. And, I'm very grateful. I will say it again. I've said it already, but I will say it again. I'm very grateful for what the Lord has given you vision for. And I'm grateful to be a part of this vision, being a part of the Daily Faith Network family, being able to get in at such an early stage of the ministry. I really do count it an honor and a privilege. So thank you so much.
No problem. Listen, everybody, you can watch this replay daily at 6 a.m. and 8:30 p.m. right here on Daily Faith Network. Listen, this is exclusive content. So if you go on Facebook and YouTube, you ain't gonna find it. All right. You can download the app, Fire Stick, Roku, Apple TV, or you can pull up that web browser anytime, any day of the week. We got something on that you can watch that will edify and encourage your mind, body, and soul. And for those of you,
let me say this. Let me say
this
before you get. And forgive me for cutting you off, but let me say this: if your church has the goods, and you all know that you have a message that you need to get out, y'all need to chop it up with Daily Faith Network. I'm telling you, this young man will literally bless your life and help to grow the expanse of your ministry. We are definitely benefactors of your vision, and I'm sure that there are thousands of other churches that could benefit from this as well. So if you got something that the world needs to hear, y'all need to look up Ontavius McCullough. Hit him up on Facebook, inbox him, whatever the case is. Find him on the website. Get with this young man. He's gonna help change the trajectory of your ministry for sure.
Listen, I'm so full right now after this. Yeah. Listen, thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoy the Church's Pulse, the first episode, and the best is still yet pending. Keep it locked right here on Daily Faith Network.